All right, I just want to do a quick talk about the SEC suit against Richard Hart, which came out, yesterday, day before. It's a civil action now. SEC means civil. It's not criminal. They are making a demand for a jury trial. Sometimes the SEC, they can do a couple different things. I'll go over that a little later. Richard Hart's got 21 days to respond or face a default judgment. So I doubt very much he's going to ignore the whole thing. So he's got 21 days to reply, and then take it from there. They go to trial. Now, before trial happens, there's something called discovery. That's where SEC gets records of everything. They've already got plenty of public information, but there's all sorts of what Richard Hart might have thought would stay private. That's going to have to come out. There'll be transparency like we haven't seen in Hex ever. So stay tuned. If it's all legit, nothing to worry about. Now, there's no word on other federal agencies getting involved, but the way the SEC involves themselves, they handle their case. Other agencies, Department of Justice, IRS, whoever else, they might be interested, but they're not necessarily going to tell the SEC what they're working on. So each operates independently. How the time will come when one or the other will consult. So what's the outlook? We'll have to see. Just go over some things. This is the announcement from the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission. Charges Hex founder Richard Hart with misappropriating millions of dollars of investor funds from unregistered crypto asset securities that raised more than $1 billion. You get that kind of money, and the word misappropriating, that's not the kind of thing you want to see in a federal case, but here we are. It's in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York. That's not unusual. SEC usually does that when talking about stocks and anything that has to do with the financial center, but they do have jurisdiction in that area. Because they actually used Uniswap, which amazingly enough has, even though it's decentralized, Uniswap has a headquarters because they have one of their coders or a certain number of people operating out of Brooklyn. So there's that. And even if they didn't have that, if there's so much as one customer in the New York metro area, that would avail the SEC to be able to represent that person in that area. And represent their interests as a consumer, as someone affected by Hex. And that's really how it's inescapable that the SEC has jurisdiction here. So by hook or by crook, the SEC has got jurisdiction. It's been written about in Cointelegraph, files complaining against Hex founder for allegedly offering unregistered securities. There's been a lot of talk about whether a crypto token is a security or not, the Howey test, this and that. I saw something put up by BitBoy Crypto for what it's worth. He said, it's already been determined. Crypto, it doesn't pass the Howey test. No, that was the XRP dismissal or denial of summary judgment that the SEC wanted for an XRP case. Denial of summary judgment for retail trading of XRP, and that's not what's happening here. It did not magically make all crypto therefore not a security. No, it doesn't work that way. I think that it's going to depend on the factors of each token, what the token does, and for that particular thing, XRP sold on blind exchanges to retail investors who didn't know who they were buying it from. The token didn't give them any voting rights. It's not a governance token. It's no ownership of XRP. That's a very different situation than different tokens. A token that's a governance token, a token that gives you voting rights, a token that you stake. All those factors could affect how the SEC looks at things. But getting ahead of ourselves on that, we'll see what they do with the XRP case. But here we know that they are going after Richard Hart, a.k.a. Richard Schuler. And interestingly enough, they named Hex, Pulsechain, and Pulsex as separate defendants. I mean, they're probably, the only actual person they named was Richard Schuler, but they are entities created by Richard Schuler or perhaps others, but they appeared in the complaint conducting unregistered offerings, crypto asset securities that raised more than $1 billion in crypto assets. Yep. So interesting here. Fort Worth regional office. It doesn't matter where the office is located. They still got jurisdiction. I'm not sure why those people were assigned to it. But this has been going on for a while now. If you remember, the SEC issued subpoenas to influencers promoting Hex, Pulsechain, and Pulsex. And they know who they are, and we know who some of them are. But this is back in, November 15th, 2022. This is November 6th, this article came out. Yeah, so they've been working on this for a while. They work quietly, and then one day they show up. Eric Wall tweeted about it here. Hex information channels filled with information, how to shred your digital evidence. Yeah. By the way, if you ever get subpoenaed like that, talk to a lawyer and don't start shredding evidence. That's spoliation of evidence. That's a crime. You can get in trouble for that. Again, litigation release. This is more information about it. SEC's complaint, Hart began marketing Hex. It goes into his background. He started in 2018. That's how long he's been going on this project, but he's done things before that. As a blockchain certificate of deposit. And I noticed they put the word staking in quotes, staking, because they know what staking is, but the term staking as it applies to Hex isn't the same as it is for something like Polkadot or Ethereum, or you don't have validators working on servers. That's maybe going to be the undoing, or part of the undoing of this whole thing. We'll see. Again, here's Mr. Hart himself, and the part that sticks out to me here is December 2019 to 2020 accepted more than 678 million worth of Ether from investors in exchange for Hex tokens. That was the original allotment. And November 2020, by the time he was done with that, that was right around the time when things started to ramp up price-wise for the whole market. I mean, the beginning of November here, you can see it says $413.48. And by the end of November, it was $600 a token. So if he held on to it, I mean, a few months later in May 2021, about $4,000, $4,100. Going into November, if he held it all the way to November 2021, a year later, $4,700 a token. Did he sell any of it here? All this stuff's going to come out during discovery, like I mentioned earlier. Again, how investigations work. And these are the number of reasons that they might choose to go after somebody. You see the words like stealing customers' funds. That sounds criminal, right? Well, it doesn't have to be. The SEC, I mean, it is criminal, but the SEC doesn't necessarily have to make a federal a referral to the DOJ over it, depending on the circumstances. Now, two different things they can do. Like I mentioned earlier, they can do a civil action or an administrative action. This is out the window. They're not doing an administrative action where they just go in front of an administrative law judge and issue a settlement and collect a fine and be on their way. This is a full-blown trial with a jury. And that is what is detailed here. Jury trial demanded. All this is a complaint. If you're wondering about details of whether Hex is, the government's argument for the Howey test, you're not going to find it in this document. This only mentions the Howey test in one place. Yeah. Hart is familiar with the U.S. securities laws and the test, yada, 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 but efforts to obfuscate are unavailing. Each of the Hex, Pulsechain, Pulsex offerings involved investment money common enterprises. They're just saying that, therefore, accordingly, they were security offerings. They don't go into more details than that. That'll come out in the trial. They'll have to make a case for it, and the defense that it's not a security will come out. Again, discovery is going to be very interesting here, but unfortunately, it's just he's been so public and so obvious about where some money from somebody is going. I mean, you don't go out and you buy a 555 carat diamond, bunches of watches, high-end automobiles. I mean, this is a jury trial. The jury is going to look at this, and they're going to see everything through discovery. What are they going to think when they see this guy here with this cars and, big peepee on the license plate? Come on. What? And of course, another interesting thing is he's living in Finland, but all the cars I've seen have Estonia license plates. So it could be that maybe he's leasing these, maybe he didn't buy them all. Regardless, they weren't free. He had to spend somebody's money somewhere on that. So that is going to get delicate. And there's other information, older information out there. Like this goes back to August 13th, 2020. Andreas Antonopoulos was asked to do a positive review of Hex for 10 Bitcoin. He was offered that. He wrote Twitter. He was asked not to disclose the price of the endorsement, and they let the audience make their decisions. Well, he went out and said he was offered 10 Bitcoin. He didn't make the review. There was so much of this going on about Hex. All the YouTubers that were either talking about it and promoting it and loved it, or they just wouldn't talk about it. And it was, I guess they just didn't want to put up with, negative comments and whatever. I'll just get flack. So this is about the most they ever did. And it was kind of frustrating at the time if you wanted to learn about Hex, because it was one side or the other. It was complete endorsement. Yeah, you got to get on there, or no, I'm not going to talk about it. Well, why don't you like it? No, nothing. And that was probably a little, I can see why someone wouldn't want to talk about it if they didn't like it, just to avoid the flack. But it made it very hard to make a rational decision about this, other than just jumping in with the crowd or avoiding it. And anyway, then he actually did an interview with Peter Schiff, which Peter Schiff, I got to hand it to him. I'm not a huge Peter Schiff fan. I'm not a gold bug, but he did ask some good questions in this interview. And this is where he flat out asked Richard Hart, have you sold any Hex?
I give away self-help.
Well, how many hex have you sold personally?
If you look publicly, it looks like 0, but I can't tell you because Howey test, right?
So
Now he's saying he can't tell you because of the Howey test. I don't see that. Now he'll explain a little bit.
But if you do chain
No, that
analysis
doesn't-
and you follow the OA wallet, it appears to have never sold anything. But who's the OA wallet?
Yeah, by the way, OA wallet is not mentioned in the complaint, not yet. But the whole "who's the OA wallet" shrugging the shoulders, that's not going to fly. They are going to find out through discovery, they've got blockchain. They've had time to research the blockchain. They know who the mysterious OA wallet is, and if nothing else, we'll all learn that.
You've never sold any hex and taken any cash? You just have all the hex.
Let's go over the rumors. Let's go over the rumors. You used to be able to transform.
I'm just asking you a
I'm
question.
answering your question with more words if you relax. When Hex launched, you used to be able to turn Ethereum into Hex directly in the contract. There's a rumor that there was like 1 million Ethereum generated. There's also a rumor that I got all that Ethereum.
Rumors are going to be found out, so you can't do the deflecting with rumor and this and that. This is just going to get very interesting.
There's also a rumor, which I can agree with this one, that I've been mining Bitcoin, or was a Bitcoin miner back when it was 50 cents.
That's probably true. That's probably how he got most of his money.
And mined full 50 Bitcoin block rewards more than once a day by myself with no pool, because that's how easy it was back then. I've also been a retired multimillionaire for about 20 years now, having a 150 employee marketing company in the United States, where we sold mortgages, miracle cleaners, sex toys, cash advance loans, you name it.
He didn't name spam, though, and he's been accused of that. That might come out, too. Don't know.
So I've been retired for...
My question.
Well, your question is, have I ever sold? And what I'm telling you is, if you look at all the coins that were associated with some type of founder thing, none of them were sold. So I'm answering you the question as close as I can to getting... I can't tell you about my finances because Howey test. I can't tell you about my finances because expectation of value based on what I do. No, if you think the value is going to go up or down based on what I do, it's an expectation. I don't give people expectations.
The Howey test has to do with work effort that you are expending on your part. If you simply tell people how many of your own... No, but...
Yes, giving people assumptions about your future behavior is forward-looking statement is fucking bog standard expectations.
I'm not asking you what you're going to do in the future. I'm just saying, have you sold any of the hacks that you created and gotten cash for it or some other cryptocurrency? It's just a yes or no question. And
I think Schiff's right here. Whether you've sold it or not, that is not work in terms of the Howey test. It's an investment of money, common enterprise, expectation of profit from the work of others. The work of others is not you selling off some of the tokens. I'm not sure that's going to fly. I know maybe he was advised to do that. I don't know who his lawyers are. We'll talk about that in a bit.
You're not violating the Howey rule by telling me.
So you think the price went up 1,000,000% because I was dumping my bags? That's what you think? Because you also said the opposite of that. You said that I wanted the price to go up. So you say opposite things.
So you can sell. You want the price to go up so you can
Why would I sell the world's best? Why would I sell the world's best performing asset when I own other crap I could sell?
So you can do something with it. You can't do anything with Hex. Obviously,
I just raised $27 million for charity.
That's the other thing. He keeps talking about the charity. We're going to get more details about that. It was just sort of a nebulous charity, sacrifice this. And he uses the word sacrifice to not use word invest. And maybe that was another piece of advice he got. Don't know. Again, that's going to come out in discovery. But all the stuff about the charity and all the stuff about how he made his money. And the thing that I've noticed, the broadest thing about it, when he first started with Hex, if he made all this money, he was never go out there, buying the ridiculous, like all the clothes he had on. If you look at his older videos, he wasn't dressing like this. He didn't have as much Gucci going on or Louis Vuitton or whatever else. Funky colored Mercedes and Lamborghinis. That came later, after the prices of the tokens went up, after he could potentially have sold it to pay for all that stuff. It just starts to look awkward. And as far as getting sympathy from a jury plus the evidence, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be him.
Why? Because I have a wonderful reputation.
But the people who are putting their money into Hex intend to sell one day.
Good.
They want to buy something. They want to buy a house. They want to buy a car.
Be the red candle.
They
Go
have
ahead.
to do it. But you're telling me you haven't sold any. You don't want you have you just have.
I've been retired for 20 years, bro. This for me isn't about the numbers. It's about doing more. I want to change the world. It's
not about the numbers, but I mean, the conspicuous spending, that statements like that are not going to help him.
Make the world a better place. I don't want people
I don't
to
think you're
buy
gonna make it
the
a
fake
better
stock
place by
market.
conning them into buying
Because
X.
you're the guy that's been wrong for 20 years. You've been wrong
I haven't
20
been wrong.
years consistently.
No, I haven't. I've been right.
All right, well, there's plenty of things that Peter Schiff has been wrong about, but that's changing the subject. Speaking of lawyers, though, it's not evident that Richard Hart has, well, I'm sure he has to have a lawyer somewhere, but as of right now, attorneys have not yet appeared for the defendants. This is the case number. You can check it out, but here's the Pacer Monitor. The attorneys from the Texas office have just filed pro hac vice. That means they can appear in a state where they're not licensed. The supervisory attorney, the attorney who's going to conduct it. And if you want to learn more about the theories behind why it's not, this guy's been kind of the lone wolf on this whole thing, doing the research. A lot of people give him flack for this, but I can't say that he's not researched it. He touched on it here. I'm not sure where in the article he might have updated it, but he's constantly updating this article about Hex. I'm going to leave the comments open, even though I might regret that. But seriously, I'm just approaching this from the initial complaint that went out to get the jury trial. What this means, it's not enough to deflect with you know what you're talking about, and we're gonna onboard more and the price go up, and I really want to be wrong about this, but it's just not looking great. See what you want to say in the comments. We'll find out soon. I expect a response from Richard Hart within the 21 days he's got to respond, and from there we'll see what develops. Thanks for watching.